So with every change, I talk about this, every change, there's a goodbye. We're saying goodbye to something. And maybe it's an old friend that doesn't serve you well, but they're still your old friend. I don't know what it is, but everybody knows there's something. It's like that thing or that time, how you spent your time and energy. So sometimes we have to say goodbye to some part of our path that hasn't been working for us. And a lot of other things that come in are like people might have shame, low self-worth. They may actually struggle with self-love and self-compassion. There are thoughts and feelings and things that have gone on in their life that they cannot let go of, so they don't feel like they deserve anything different or better. They may feel that they'll get the disappointment or envy of people that they care about. So growing and changing has consequences. And I think if people take time to explore, they can sometimes get to the bottom of like what their reason is that they keep sabotaging.
Welcome to season 5 of the Be Your Own Kind podcast, where we interview individuals that are basking in the lane they have created. To keep up with all things BYOK, visit our website at beyourownkind.com. While there, stop by the BYOK shop to grab our merch to add daily inspiration to your life. BYOK has also created a Facebook group that offers giveaways, business advice, and lots of laughs, and most importantly, sisterhood. Have time for a chat or to just get acquainted with your girl? Go to our site and click under bookings to set up a 30-minute coffee chat. Be sure to tune into the BYOK 2 Cents Live every Wednesday at 9:20 Central Standard Time on the BYOK platform YouTube channel, or you can listen to us on Fluent Radio at www.fluentradio.com. Last but not least, if you love our content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our episodes. Thank you for rocking with us each season and enjoy the episode. Well, hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good. Renita, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, the sun is out. It doesn't matter if it's cold. As long as the sun comes out, I'm okay.
Well, I think I think being able to see when the sun comes out, even on the darkest of days, is one of our goals, right? See the sun come out.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a healthy perspective, right?
Well, one of the things you and I are probably going to talk a little bit about is about resilience and our capacity to be able to find those moments of sunshine in the darkness, or the moments of joy in the midst of despair. And that's just part of how you sort of navigating with a full heart, and being resilient is all about. But it's been nice. I don't know where you are, but I'm in New Orleans. Where are you at?
I'm in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Love Chicago. Well, and so for us, we did get a little bit of cool weather recently, and the sun's out. It's beautiful. But I've been to Chicago quite often, actually.
Nice. Well, what is one of your favorite things about Chicago?
The Field Museum and the Palmer House Hotel.
Okay. All right. Those are heavy hitters.
Well, I did. There was a lot of meetings that I used to go to at the Palmer House, and there was a very important professional moment for me that happened at the Palmer House. And then my cousin used to run the entomology department in the Field Museum, so I got to go back in the backstage, I guess, and see where they file everything, and that was very interesting. There's a lot of dead things and preserved specimens, and so that was quite interesting.
That is,
but
that's pretty interesting.
Have you been to New Orleans?
No, I want to go. That's on my husband and I bucket list. He found out that there are restaurants that are shellfish allergy friendly, so that's what our reluctance was at first, because I'm like, what can I eat if I go to New Orleans? So we found.
Well, it's not all seafood. We have some amazing food, and if you let them know, they'll make sure it hasn't touched any shellfish.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to, because at first I'm like, what am I going to eat, like beignets, which I'm okay with, but
well, it's much more than that.
I love it.
If you come down, you let me know. I'll definitely make some really good recommendations for you.
I will definitely reach out to you, because you see the stuff on Google and you go there and it's like, okay, it's the touristy stuff, but I'm like, no, I want to go to the neighborhood stuff. Like,
that's right. Right. And you only get to know that when you really talk to someone here in the city. And there's a part of New Orleans that's only accessible to the locals, or if you know the locals, it's like any place. If you go just to the touristy places, you're really going to miss some things. But it's really nice to meet you. And I know that we share a common connection with Jennifer Covington. So I'm so grateful for her putting us in touch with each other.
Yes, loving it. So I know we're just talking, but can you let the audience know a little bit about who you are?
Well, my name is Jamie Cromer, and I am a clinical social worker, a board certified psychoanalyst, and a Ayurvedic lifestyle instructor. And I was certified through the Chopra Foundation for that. And I am here in New Orleans. I have over 28 years of experience helping people resolve all kinds of issues, from depression, anxiety, relationship, trauma. And I still have that private practice. And years ago, I founded a company called Windows to Wisdom. And that was all about my mission to make sure that everybody had access not only to this wisdom about how to access their unconscious, how to become more self-aware, how to take care of themselves in a kind of holistic, personalized framework. So it was this kind of goal to do that, and then have people access their own wisdom, and teaching people how to listen to themselves. And really, that's the goal of therapy, even, is that when people come in, they get a non-judgmental space to hear themselves think and talk. I quite often have people say out loud, I didn't even know I was thinking that. I didn't even know I felt that way. So it's like getting that space. And what I give people permission to do is, after they've healed and after they've learned some things, that they take that after the fact and they keep it going with themselves. So Windows to Wisdom is about all of the education and the guidance and support to get the tools, techniques to do that, to do all of that. So in short, that's what I do. I'm also the president of the New Orleans Birmingham Psychoanalytic Center. I'm the head of their outreach and their progress committee. I'm on faculty, and I'm also married. My husband and I have been together over 33 years, and I have a 29-year-old son, a 17-year-old daughter, and a 16-year-old nephew that I'm the full guardian of, and a bunch of fur babies too. So that's me.
Wow, Jamie, you do a lot. You do a lot of incredible work.
I do.
I checked you out on your website, and I was just as I sent the notes to you, I was talking about how I loved the quote about supporting self-care by self-discovery. I feel like that's step one, because how can you care for something you don't even know? You got to be connected to something to value it. And I thought that was just, I don't know, I just like that.
You're like, that rings true. That rings true. Well, I'm biased, I guess, because of how I've trained, but also how I've lived my life. Okay. That being self-aware is sort of the beginning, because when we're self-aware, then to me, it's like traveling on a highway. You're traveling on the highway. If you didn't have the road signs, maybe you wouldn't know where you were going. You wouldn't know where to get off. And it's sort of like that. If we have road signs inside of ourselves, we have that internal compass that says, oh, I know who I am. I know why I am the way I am. I can understand what triggers me. I know what stories about my life that impact me, that might limit me. I know how to look for my strengths. I know what my personality is and where I'm going to feel the most comfortable. And so that's just sort of the beginning. But I also think that, you can go anywhere and find a self-care checklist, right? Like all the things that everybody might do. But I do think there's something important about having your own personalized framework for your own self-care and for your own self-aware moments. And it's not going to be the same for everyone. Right. So I think knowing yourself helps you know what it is you exactly need. And so I teach people how to turn in and literally ask, what is it that I most need right now? What is it that I most need to know right now? And that can guide you day to day. Do I need to stop and take a few deep breaths because that's going to regulate my nervous system down? Or actually, am I feeling really sluggish and heavy and I actually need to get out and take a brisk walk? Or Do I need, if you're thinking about balancing through the senses, do I need to smell some lavender right now and like chill? Or am I needing some cinnamon or orange because I need to pep myself up? Those are just tiny little examples of like, if I know what I need and I know how I'm out of balance, I can get what I need.
That is a high level of connectedness. Like, you're saying it's minute, but it's not, because I feel like self-care has become, I don't know, systematic, like in one size fit all type deal.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
as with anything in your journey, it's subjective. What works for you. Like you
That's
can read
right.
all the help books, and they're good. They serve their purpose, but they only are planting a seed of things to try. It's
That's
still
right.
like the plug and play kind of situation. When you're trying to figure out like what works in different situations. So I'm wondering, Jamie, is there something personal to your framework? Like, does this come from experience? Does it come from research? Like, how did you come up with your framework of what you do?
Well, I think, as with most things, when you get to know me, I will often tell people there's never one reason for anything. Everything is multi-determined. And so part of our goal is to understand all the threads that come in and influence whatever we're doing. So how I came up with this framework or how I got involved in this, there's probably so many reasons why I even was, directed to a healing profession. But for me, I certainly had my own experiences with trauma and depression and anxiety, and resolving that through my own self-work, journaling since even I was 9 years old, and having my own therapy. And when you get trained in this work, when you become a clinical social worker, and especially when you become a psychoanalyst, which is like an additional 5 years of training, it's required that you do your own work, because basically we are the instruments of change. So if we don't know who we are, how are we going to know how to help you, guide you, or know the difference between what's you and me in that room? Because it's not just insight alone, it's the power of that relationship and us coming to know each other in that room and what comes alive in the room. So I think for me, being drawn into this was going through doing my own work and finding it really helpful and useful, and being challenged along the way and realizing that my own resilience, my own capacity to care for myself, it wasn't just intellectual. For me, I spent a lot of time in my life up in my mind and in my emotions. Like, let me understand that thing. For me, the last piece, or one of the pieces that fell into place later, was really a deep spiritual calling. And that happened in small ways over time, but it was particularly challenged in 2016 when my son almost died. And in that moment, I realized I had a fantasy. And my fantasy was, if I'm smart enough, if I work hard enough, if I'm a good enough person, then somehow I'm protected. And I think on some level that's true, except you're going to get rocked around a lot before you get back to centered. Right. So when I got my world rocked and I thought, wow, I don't know if I can keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know if I can keep taking care of all my patients and my clients and still be fully present for myself and my son, when I was so just my world was rocked. And that's actually what brought me to go on my first retreat. And that's how I got trained at the Chopra Institute and became a Ayurvedic lifestyle instructor. And the reason those actually are tied into this framework idea. So psychoanalysis and therapy there's this framework of understanding the mind and the personality and our stories and how we make sense of the world. And so I've learned that, and that's very personal. But if you have a framework, you can listen in a certain kind of way and really help guide people through what they're thinking and feeling. And then I went out into this retreat and found out about Ayurveda, which is a personalized wellness program for understanding mind, body, spirit wellness. And there were 7 pillars of health that they talked about that I learned: meditation and movement and nutrition and healthy emotions, grounding in nature, connection to yourself and others, and I'm missing sleep. So it was like, oh yeah, I forgot that one.
How we all forget that, right?
I think that one should be first. I'm just letting you know that one should be first. If you don't have good sleep, everything's going downhill from there. So my own capacity to say, I need something more. I need to take my own self and get some self-care on board that really works for me. How do I keep myself balanced? How do I check back in with myself and what I need? And so out of that, I was just inspired to just to share all of this with everyone. And that's how Windows to Wisdom was born. And really it was born because I didn't know if I was going to want to stay in my office 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, sitting in that chair doing one-on-one patient care, because it's very demanding. And I didn't know if I would be able to do it if I had to worry about things going on in my family life. Turns out it all worked out. And I made it through just by not taking some new patients for a while and adding some balance then. But I started going on retreats. I started hosting retreats here in New Orleans and in Costa Rica. And I developed workshops and courses. And so that whole business got born, though, out of that. So I don't know. I feel like I kind of went all over the place. But that framework, both of those frameworks apply to everyone. I want to teach people how to become self-aware. There's like the pillar of like windows to self-awareness, windows to self. And then there's the windows to wellness, which is all about that 7 pillars and learning how to balance yourself. And then there's windows to success, which is, I know my values, I know my purpose, I know the big reason why, and I know how to create action, and I know how to get out of my own way. So I teach people how to gain that self-awareness, how to have more confidence, how to not self-sabotage. And I even have a whole program that's just on creating sustainable change and walking people through 7 major steps to like make sure you're making change in the right way. And I have journaling challenges. Like I have a lot going on that really, there's something for everybody with Windows to Wisdom. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You did mention a little bit in the notes about a challenge. What was it called? The 21-day self-reflection daily habit challenge?
Yes. So that one's pretty recent. I have a 30-day journaling challenge, and I have this 21-day self-reflection daily habits challenge. I love this one.
Okay.
I put a lot of heart in that one because each day you not only get like an idea that's presented to you that helps you think or do something new, but there might be an inspiring quote. There's a little bit of education about it. And it's attached to an app, the Windows to Wisdom app. So you get this, which I love. You get a reminder. I like reminders. And so there's an automatic reminder for you to go there and to work on this. And it could be something like, today, think about 3 things you're grateful for, or today, I want you to think about what are your personal strengths. Or think about the challenges in your life that you've overcome. What were the things that helped you overcome those challenges? Or if it's about connection and forgiveness, are there people in your life you want to get reconnected to? Who can you call or text today? Some of them have some journaling prompts about self-awareness. When I talk about self-awareness, I often talk about 3 major techniques. One of them is meditation, because when you quiet your mind and you connect to yourself, it has lots of health benefits, first of all, tons. Everybody knows about those, I think, where, it's regulating your nervous system. It's going to literally down-regulate bad genes and up-regulate good genes. Like there's a ton of health benefits to meditation. But it helps waken your creativity, and it helps you really be able to listen. Because when you get quiet, you listen. By the way, this is one of the things people sometimes say they don't want to do. That's why people stay really busy and they don't stop, because they're like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think. I don't want to feel that.
To be honest,
feeling.
Jamie, 2020 was like the beginning. I said this on probably a couple episodes. Like 2020, when I had to sit down and be at home, I went nuts. Like silence, like I never understood the quote, silence can be so loud, until the pandemic happened. Now I can work in silence, and I see what you're saying, I used to have real high anxiety. I'm not so high strung anymore. But that's 2023. 2020, yeah, it was like every thought that I have suppressed or tried to ignore or, busy, doing everything else. Every single thought. It's like somebody just lifted the rug of thought, and all the thoughts that I put under the rug just floated. And it was, I felt nearly insane. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this. I don't want to feel this. This hurts. This is like I felt 50 million emotions all in once.
Oh, I can so relate. And honestly, it can be really hard, especially if you don't have a way to contain or to feel like you can stop the flood or to quiet the noise. Because the way I think about it is this. Ideally, if I think about that window metaphor for a minute, I would like for people to feel like they could raise the shade and open it up and shed some light when they want to, but that if they really kind of feel like I need it quiet, I need it a little dark, I'm going to lower the shade. And so there are things in our life that can do that naturally, like the ways we oh, I totally forgot about that thing, right? Like denial, suppression, like displacement, like all these ways that we defend ourselves.
Right.
But I think if we don't feel like we have control over it, it can feel very disorienting and it can feel unsettling. And this is where people might start having anxiety attacks even, or get depressed, or turn to drugs, alcohol, lots of Netflix, food, you name it, whatever the things, let me just dull the noise and pain. But I think if people can begin to make space to just kind of baby step, and then learn some of the techniques of how to shift your emotions, how to create containment, how to ground yourself, how to calm your nervous system. All these, having tools in the toolbox can help you navigate the hard times. And back to resilience, create more resilience. And I think the daily habits like that. So the challenge that you mentioned, the 21 days, to begin to start setting up some kind of daily habit of I'm taking care of myself, either mind, body, or spirit. And it just starts that process. Yeah.
I love that. Let's get into resilience. I thought that was an interesting, all of this kind of I don't know, you got my mind kind of working after I read your notes, because we talk about persevering, we talk about manifestation, but resilience, I don't hear much about. I don't hear much about that as in the sense of self-care or survival. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to, I don't know if that's the same thing as grit, but being able to just go through, especially now. I feel like with all, we have all this information in our fingertips now, something we didn't have years ago. So when we learned the bad news, it was sporadically and slow. Now, every bad thing that could possibly be happening in the world, all you have to do is Google. You know what I'm saying? And it's just,
I know.
Widespread. How can, please tell me and the people how resilience can help us in this modern time?
Wow. I really honestly could probably talk about this for hours, but let me start by saying what I think part of it includes. I think resilience is about self-awareness. I think it's about our relationships. I think it's about mindfulness and self-care. So that's sort of but I think there's these certain qualities like confidence, connection, our competence, our capacity for coping. Those are communication. So these essential kinds of components or core ideas, I think, make up someone who might be more resilient or less resilient. And I think if we think about resilience, it's about our capacity to manage the hard times, the bad situation, plus maybe some chronic trauma or a new trauma happening. So are we able to get kind of knocked down, and how long does it take us to get back up? If it brings us down in our mood and our energy, how far does it go? right? Are we going from a 10 to a 1, or we go 10 to a 5? What are the strategies that we start to do to help ourselves, and how fast are we responding? So you can see how if somebody doesn't have the skills, or if they get knocked down, they get down to a 1, or if they get knocked down and they're down for weeks, like there's a different level of resilience that you can see in people depending on how they're adapting or not to the hardships of life. And sometimes, like you're saying, chronic hardships. So that's kind of like in general. I think when I think about right now, if we think about all that's going on in the world, and really there's always something, we could find it.
Right.
Literally on our street, in our community, in our city, in our state, country, globally. And whether that's about climate, or it's about war, or it's just about financial security or not, or food security for people, or it's about racial tensions and religious tensions in our neighborhoods, in our world, like it's always there.
Right.
And so I think some people are better able to create a boundary around themselves. That's one of the things I teach, is about how to create a kind of boundary.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I just gave a lecture last week to the Chamber of Commerce here about how do you set healthy boundaries for self-care that's effective, and you do it with confidence. And like, so some of those skills that I was talking to them about, it's also just about, what are the choices you're making every single day that might contribute to things feeling worse or better? So coping strategies might include how I'm spending my time, how am I taking care of myself, what choices am I making about what do I watch, what do I listen to, how long am I listening to it? So someone who might have CNN on in the background all day long is going to get very overstimulated by negative input.
Right.
And we have to be aware that what we take into our bodies, whether it's through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our touch, every single thing we take into our bodies affects us. So if you make a conscious choice that I'm not going to listen to, some hardcore metal music, or like something really hardcore versus maybe like, I don't know, a serenade, the movie soundtrack to The Wizard of Oz. I don't know. Like we make choices about, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
if you watch a certain movie, if you watch a sad movie, you cry.
Right.
I mean, I do. It doesn't take much for me. I cry at cooking shows. My kids make fun of me. I'm like, it's a human interest story.
Wait a minute, what is going on in the cooking show where you cry?
Oh my gosh, when they get kicked off.
Oh, your compassion is amazing.
Okay, so I didn't actually write that down. I didn't tell you earlier, but compassion is part of resilience. To have compassion for yourself and others,
right,
helps you become more resilient as well. But my point is, like, the foods we eat, the music we listen to, the shows we listen to, all affect our mood. And so it's just check in with yourself. What am I taking into my life? The people that I let into my life. And then even how you start your morning, like daily habits in the morning. If you get up and literally are like rushing like a wild person to rush out the door, you're going to have a certain feeling in your body and your mind, versus I'm going to get up with enough time. So I'm going to do 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of stretching my body. Then I'm going to take my shower and I'm going to have my coffee. It's a different day.
Yeah.
So the other question is, and this gets back to something I mentioned earlier, it's like, what gets in our way? Because sometimes we kind of know what we need to do. Sometimes we really don't. Sometimes we need the skills and we need the information, but sometimes we know exactly what we should do and we still don't do it. And so that's another whole level of like checking in with yourself about, why am I self-sabotaging? Why do I not take care of myself? And that's something I do every single day, which is help people understand their unconscious mind, which is the stuff that lays hidden, the fears and motivations that are right below the surface that keep us from taking good care of ourselves.
Wow.
This
is a lot. I love this.
I know it is a lot. And I wanted to return to something because I want to pick up the thread because I talked about there were 3 ways to kind of tap into self-awareness. And one of them was meditation.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is pre-associative journaling, to be able to journal like anything that comes to your mind at all. And you just pre-association journaling, set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes. I have tons of prompts through Windows to Wisdom, but you can also literally just start it cold, just start writing, or you could say, what do I most need to know right now? And just journal your heart out, set a timer, do 3 pages of journaling or 10 or 15 minutes. And then the other thing is dream interpretation. So I'm very into dreams because dreams are little clues from your unconscious mind. And this is something for some people that's hard because they're like, I have scary dreams, or I don't remember my dreams. And so I have lots of hints about how to remember your dreams, how to understand your dreams, and be able to use them as like little guides of like, it's like taking a temperature, like what's going on with me? What was the emotion of that dream? What's being communicated to me?
I love that. I was just telling somebody, there's not a night I don't dream. I literally dream every night in color, movies. I dream movies every night.
And do you talk to somebody about your dreams?
No, I've been dreaming since a kid. Like since a kid, I dream every night.
My guess is you have repetitive dreams too. Do you have a dream?
A lot of repetitive dreams, and then some of them are like continuing, like it's TV, like a 2-peak. It'll pick up where it left off, and I'm like, oh my God, I am dreaming movies.
It's a talent, and some people actually write screenplays based on their dreams because
I should have got my calling. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I love to teach about is dreams and dream interpretation. And I have a free dream interpretation guide. I think that's up on the app too. Part of that kind of business is like, is everything organized on there? But we have a lot. We have free meditations. We have meditations on self-trust and confidence. And, but there is the dream, not only the dream interpretation guide, but I think I have a meditation on like suggesting how to dream, how to remember your dream, how to set an intention for your dream. Mm-hmm. So if you have like a question or a concern, you can literally go to bed and set an intention of what you're going to dream that night and let that come to you. And so I would recommend, Renita, you may really enjoy keeping a dream journal. And even if you just took 5 or 10 minutes to write down your dreams, and anyway, I could teach you how to understand them.
Wow, I would love that. And if I do write a screenplay and hit it big, I'm coming for you. Like I want you in the front. But I'm loving this. I feel like at this point, resilience and self-awareness comes hand in hand. I've been like on this emotional intelligence kick. In my live streams, just talking about the different ones, and self-awareness was the first thing that we talked about. So this kind of exercised my thoughts on self-awareness, because I thought it was just be self-aware. So, because the higher your self-awareness is, the more you understand how you affect people, the more you understand how you're affected. But I never thought about how the stuff you're talking about, like, why am I like this? Why am I so anxious? Like when it's disconnected from others. I never thought of self-awareness from that point of view. And so I don't know, I'm in a conundrum. This is why I'm asking you the question. And for some of the viewers, like for people that's like, okay, when am I going to find time to become this self-aware? And then when I do find out these tics, when am I going to find the time to implement these daily practices for self-care? So I'm asking you, like, how can one who is kind of new to this, like, find the time and not, because sometimes we get anxiety about change. Like, okay, I can do this, but how am I going to do this? And and then it just sits to the wayside because now that becomes too much. Self-care becomes too much. So
I understand.
How can one kind of, am I making sense? Like,
you're making total sense. Yeah. We can really want something and then we're like, we're busy, I don't know how to fit it in.
Right.
So I mentioned this, I did mention a program that I have called Windows to Change, and it really does walk you through. And really, I think the key to resilience, the key to change is having community. And even if you just pair it up with a friend, And we're like, hey, how are you doing with your self-care? Having accountability in a community where you can start making progress and feel like you can check in with somebody and go, oh, this is my problem. I ran into a roadblock here, or what does this mean? But if someone felt like even that was too much, the only thing I would say is, be curious, don't judge, and just notice. That's it. Be curious, don't judge, just notice. And so rather than feeling like it's a task, it's almost like having someone in the passenger seat with you. Maybe they're in the back seat. You don't want them in charge, but you're like, I'm listening to them. I'm like, so part of being resilient would be, an example of this would be in terms of like confidence and trusting yourself, is someone who's less resilient might have a voice that starts saying, you're never going to make it. This is too much. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't handle this. This reminds me of all the times, ... This is a bad omen, ... Okay. So, and someone who's resilient might be like, this is really tough, but I know I can get through this because I remember those other times. I can get through this because I've done it before. I'm confident, I'm strong. So the voice inside of you is going to help direct you. So listen to this. It's like, it doesn't take time. You've got an inner dialogue all the time.
That's true.
It really is just in these key small moments where you're helping yourself. And in terms of self-care habits, I really, really love to encourage people to find some kind of meditation that they like. Even if it's just listening to meditative music for a couple of minutes. I really encourage people to journal because it is a way to connect and listen to yourself. And I do encourage people to keep dream journals. But, and in the ideal world, you move your body and make sure you're putting good food into your body and having good sleep. But even if you could only do 2 minutes of meditation and 2 minutes of stretching and 2 minutes of journaling, that's going to be way better than, I have to do 15. I don't have 15 minutes. But the other thing is, I will tell you that the number one excuses I hear in my office is, I don't have time, I don't have money. But people find time and they find money for the things that matter. And sometimes they don't matter. They just feel like they have to have it. So it's always a kind of gentle confrontation when people are like, I really don't have time. I'm like, how long did you scroll today? How many emails did you have to scroll past because you haven't unsubscribed because you have like 100 in there? Or how many minutes did you spend on Netflix? Come on now. So
get off my toes.
But
you're right. You are definitely right. We don't even notice like those times where we're doing those little bitty things, how that's just it just sucks up time. And you're absolutely right. When I wake up, before the house wakes up and I do my meditation and my journaling and stuff, my day does seem to go by a lot. It's like time slows down for me. But when I wake up and when I miss that, my day, it seemed like 5 minutes ago it was 8 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I noticed the difference in that. And it's like, if I know the effects of how great it feels, and with anyone that struggles with this, why is it a struggle? Because you have evidence that it works, right?
Well, and I think that sometimes there are things outside of our awareness that get in the way. And I'll tell you some, by the way, I didn't know you were a sister in the journaling and meditation. I'm preaching to the choir here. Like, you already know.
I know better.
You already know. But listen, I sometimes go through periods of time where I get caught on the treadmill. And usually when I'm focusing energy and I put my kids first, and it's not that I shouldn't, sometimes I need to, but really it's like I end up doing things like I'll just sleep an extra 30 minutes, but then they need me and then the ball's rolling. Mm-hmm. So, but I think, so it's not about being perfect. It's about it's not a destination. It's a process.
I love
but I also think that's where some journaling or just self-reflection comes in, because you might ask yourself, what is it that's getting in my way? Can I think of any reason why I would be concerned about what would happen if this went really well, if I got all that money, if I lost all that weight, if I was super healthy. Like, there actually are consequences to that, right? Like, when we choose this path, sometimes we're choosing not to be on a different path. And not being on that other path has consequences. Maybe there are different people and we're leaving some people behind, or spending different time in different places. So with every change, I talk about this, every change, there's a goodbye. We're saying goodbye to something. And maybe it's an old friend that doesn't serve you well, but they're still your old friend. I don't know what it is, but everybody knows there's something. It's like that thing or that time, how you spend your time and energy. So sometimes we have to say goodbye to some part of our path that hasn't been working for us. And a lot of other things that come in are like, people might have shame, low self-worth. They may actually struggle with self-love and self-compassion. There are thoughts and feelings and things that have gone on in their life that they cannot let go of, so they don't feel like they deserve anything different or better. They may feel that they'll get the disappointment or envy of people that they care about. So growing and changing has consequences. And I think if people take time to explore, they can sometimes get to the bottom of like what their reason is that they keep sabotaging. And so sometimes it takes time to self-reflect, but this is also why people come to me in my office and go to therapy or join a community where you can actually be like talking about it and exploring it as it's coming up. Yeah.
I love that. So I just want to piggyback on community. When we just talked, you kind of slightly touched on that. There are people that sometimes kind of opt out of community due to past experiences, past hurt, and they have a desire, because I feel like we all have a sense of belonging. I don't care what anyone says, but you have that, I don't know, it's like an electric fence that you place in front of you to not join a community due to past experiences and past hurt. With a person that's going through that, I don't know, some small tips you can give them to inch towards community, or even to identify if it is even a strong community, for them?
That's a really good question. And I think given this, normally when somebody would propose some kind of idea like this, I would start asking more questions. Like, so I in my office, it's not that I don't ever give advice, but really I'm guiding people towards their own answers. Mm-hmm. So in this case, if someone said to me and I knew more specifically, I would be able to guide that better than this kind of abstract. But what I will say is this: we all carry the wounds of failed relationships, hurts, slights, disappointments, frustrations, traumas, and we carry them with us. And I think sometimes we do something called projection. And what projection is we take something and we place it on the other person, whether it's theirs or not. It happens all the time in my office, but it's kind of designed that way. I'm a very private person, and therapy isn't about me. It's about the other person. So they can project anything onto me. So some people project that I'm single. Some people kind of hear that I'm married, but maybe they have an idea of what that meant. Whether I have kids or not, whether I'm nice or not, rich or not, and whether I'm Jewish or not. Like, it's all of the things. And then they have their ideas about who I am. So I think what happens is that's a lot of disruption that happens in community, is we're sometimes putting on something that actually doesn't belong to that person, because we don't really know people unless we ask.
Right.
So I think first of all, I would say check in. Do you really have all the information? Are you jumping to conclusions? There's a whole bunch of cognitive distortions that start to happen where we might minimize something good and maximize something bad. We might have black and white thinking about something, all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing. This is all the stuff we do. Mm-hmm. And I think if you check in about the way you're thinking about a situation, that would be the first thing I would say. Second thing is communication. Is there a way to communicate your concern directly to the person? Is there, and I'm thinking about if it happened in a community and you want to return to that community. One thing I've learned over all the years of my working with people is you have to be able to tolerate something I call ambivalence. That is mixed feelings about the same person. So you can actually have feelings, I love this person, but there's some things I really don't like, or maybe I feel like I hate them today. But somehow the love wins, right? We can be disappointed and we can think about what we're grateful for. So I think a lot of times that's what I'm thinking about. Now, some communities are not safe. And I think that's also about being able to trust yourself. Is this the right community for me? Do I really belong here? Is this safe? Because I think whatever community you join, you should be able to feel safe, that you may not always like what's going on, but somehow there's something set up where there's room for respect and communication and not hatred. And I think this is part of what's playing out in the world right now, is there's a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of hurt, but hate doesn't solve anything, right? And it's like, how do we build bridges? How can we have compassion for each other? But I do think that people need to be, I guess, intuitive, trust their instincts, trust their inner compass, that they know who's right and who's not right for them. And I think some people will come to me and they say, I keep making bad decisions. I keep making the same decisions. I keep ending up in the same bad situations with people. And sometimes we're driven to do that because we're trying to work something out. We keep trying to solve that problem with the same situation. And that's another whole thing. But what I will say is, if you find yourself repeating, being drawn to certain people in certain communities that don't serve you, then there's some inner work to be done to understand what it is that's drawing you into those situations, so that you can then, with more open eyes, choose something different, maybe unfamiliar, but better for you. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So you talk, how can people find this app? How can people find you?
Oh, well, the app is called Windows to Wisdom. It's an app on Apple and Google, I believe. And my website is windowstowisdom.com. I also have a separate website called windowstowisdomretreat.com. So that's just for my retreats that I do. And I have a at-home virtual retreat coming. It's like a fully curated retreat that you can do at home, do with your friends, have at a party. But it's about taking time and space, reflection, fun. So that's on that website. And then if you want to reach me, you can reach me at jamie@windowstowisdom.com. And I think on the website, there is a way for you to click in and opt in for some of the free stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you're interested in something in particular I've talked about, I would just email me, jamie@windowstowisdom.com. Let me put you on the email list. Let me send you the freebies that I have, and make sure because we have so many things, and it kind of depends on what you're needing at the time. But all the programs I talked about today, those are up on the website and in the app. Yeah.
I love this. So before I let you go and get on my soapbox, BYOK, we have a signature question here. And that question is, if you can describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. I'm so bad at picking one, because even when we go out to eat, I want a little bit of everything. How can I pick just one?
You can do more than one.
Well, I'll tell you what. I always tell people to trust the first word that comes to mind. And if I'm allowed to have two, I will say heart-centered and resilient. And I think what's nice about that is who I think I am is also who my business is. It's just fully me, and I'm super invested in it because it is who I am. Heart-centered meaning I lead with love and compassion in every single thing I do, whether I'm leading, teaching, parenting, working with my patients or clients. And resilience is just, I guess, how I see myself, that no matter what has happened in my life, that I have found and I guess resourcefulness, right? Because it's like knowing how to reach out for resources, knowing when to ask for help, creating a team, creating a community, having close relationships with your family, all of that building into my own resilience. So Yeah. Heart-centered, resilient.
I love that. I love that. It is so key to ask for help. So many people are struggling alone, like once again, community, and you don't have to.
I know.
You don't.
Well, people think it's a sign of weakness, or they'll
Right.
feel like they don't really deserve it, or they don't want to bother people or disappoint people, or they need to protect an image. Boy, social media does that. I'm really bad at social media. If y'all go on, there's lots of cool stuff on there, but I'm not a very consistent poster. But I think it requires so much of people that they end up feeling like they can't be who they really are, or to be able to ask for help because they're supposed to be the ones helping. So one of the things I do a lot is help other helpers. So a lot of my clients and patients are other people in healing professions. So they especially struggle sometimes because they feel like they should have it all together, right? They shouldn't be struggling. They shouldn't have to struggle. Yeah.
I find most helpers don't help themselves, and they have people with the best advice do not follow it, so
well, that's my specialty. If I could say, I mean, I help all kinds of people from all walks of life. I would say if there was one specialty, it would be helping people who help other people.
They need that help.
They do.
I need that help. I'm one of those people. I'm like, like I can sit and I can empower you, and then I'll get off the phone and be like, life sucks. Like,
well, life is challenging sometimes. It really is. And like I said earlier, there's nothing that's going to protect us from all of that. Right. But there are some things we can do that make it easier, that make it better. And part of it is not being alone in it. Not being alone in it, having somebody you're talking to, connecting with. Yeah.
I love that. Well, Jennifer has presented a treat to us today because it has been such, you've really challenged. I love when my thinking gets challenged and my perspective gets challenged, because these words that you're using today, I never applied to self-care.
Well, I love that.
Yeah,
self-care, self-aware. Yeah. I say self-aware is self-care, right? Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I love that. Self-awareness, resilience. The other thing was, what was it? Self-discovery. Yeah. Those are three main words that I have never equated to self-care. So I learned a lot.
I'm so glad. Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope our paths cross again. And I love the chance to speak with you, and hopefully something I said today is going to help somebody in some small way. And maybe y'all will reach out to me. I would love for you to reach out to me and share with me any questions or concerns that you have. So
yes, please do. Please do. Audience, I know this was a lot to take in, but it's not impossible, and we can actually make time for it. According to Jamie, put down those phones, get quiet.
Well, if nothing else, the first step would be to say, what can I do for 5 minutes?
For 5 minutes, anything.
What can I do for 5 minutes?
Right.
Anything.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So until next time, listeners, thank you again, Jamie, for your time and sharing your wisdom. I'm definitely going to get that app. I'm going to try to challenge myself. And I actually welcome everyone listening to this to do that as well. And until next time, everyone, don't forget to be kind to yourself, which in turn will help you to be kind to others. And so I'll talk to you all later. Bye.